Bismillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Today we are going to discuss a topic which is related to the blood. And in this topic, we are going to discuss the drugs which are used against the disorders of coagulation. That means those drugs which will prevent the excess coagulation as an anticoagulant drug, as an antiplatelet drug, thrombolytic agents, etc. This topic is divided into two lectures and we are going to cover it inshallah. Now, these are the terminologies which we will encounter, that is antiplatelet or antithrombotics. That means the drugs which will prevent the adherence, sticking of the platelet with each other, which is one of the process in the coagulation. One of the well-known drug to us, that is aspirin, is very commonly being used as an antiplatelet drug. Then anticoagulant, the drugs which prevent or reduce the coagulation of the blood. Although coagulation is definitely required for the homeostasis, but excessive coagulation could lead to the thrombus formation, and that's why we would like to prevent it. And third term is the thrombolytics. They are also called as fibrinolytics. Drugs which will just broken down the fibrin clot or reduce the or dilate the actually thrombin clot by dissolving the fibers. That's why it is also called fibrinolytics. These are some very commonly used terms, so I just put it at the beginning. Now let's start our talk. Before going to see the drug, we should first understand why this coagulation is important. But only when it is becoming over more, we have to prevent it with the drugs which we are going to discuss as an anticoagulant drug, antiplatelet drug, thrombolytic agents, etc. But for sure, this process of homeostasis, which is operating through the coagulation, is very important. So first we'll discuss homeostasis. What is a homeostasis? Homeostasis means limiting the blood loss consequent to bleeding. That means due to bleeding, whenever the blood loss is taking place, its loss should be stopped. This process is called as homeostasis. Don't get confused it with the homeostasis. That is something different, where the body will maintain its own internal environment. Homeostasis, it is different than hemostasis. There is another term. Homeostasis. Homeostasis means maintaining body's internal environment. Okay. So homeostasis is different. Whereas hemostasis is the prevention of the loss of the blood after the bleeding. Like internal and external injury, whenever will be taking place, the blood will start oozing out from the blood vessels. And if we will not prevent its flow, it will go on flowing, hemorrhage will be taking place, shock and death can be ensued. But body is equipped with own mechanism through which the body will prevent this loss of blood, and this process is called as hemostasis. So don't get confused between hemostasis and homeostasis. Hemostasis, loss of blood after bleeding, and hemostasis, maintaining the internal environment of the body. So both the terms are different. So our concern is For our this lecture is for the hemostasis, not of homeostasis. So this hemostasis will prevent this loss of blood, prevent the shock, hypovolemic shock, etc. And it is a life-saving process. In many instances, like after some injury, accident, internal hemorrhage, bleeding, this hemostasis is really life-saving, which will prevent the loss of blood. And this hemostasis will be automatically carried out in our body by three processes, which are very essential in preventing the loss of blood. And these processes, they will take place in the body in sequence, one after the other. And I have put them here in that sequence only. The first will be the vascular phase, in which the vasoconstriction of the blood vessels will be taking place so that further loss of the blood can be prevented. Second phase will be the platelet phase, where platelet aggregation will be taking place, and these platelets, they form a plug, they form a closure, so that from this broken artery or blood vessels, further loss of blood should not be taking place. And the third phase will be the coagulation phase, where the fibrinogen will be converted into fibrin in the active form, and then they will entrap this platelet plug along with the other cell debris to make a very stable clot that will adhere this ruptured blood vessel so that the loss of blood can be prevented. This clot will stay there until the natural restoration or healing of the blood vessels will be taking place, and then this clot will get dissolved by the process called as fibrinolysis, which we'll discuss later. So these are the three stages of hemostasis which will prevent the loss of blood: vascular phase, platelet phase, and the coagulation phase. So let's elaborate these three phases, because with this we could able to understand so that we could understand later the pharmacology of the drugs which we are going to discuss later for their disorders. So the first phase is the vascular phase. See, very naturally when the blood vessels will get ruptured, cut, the first phase will be the vasoconstriction, which will be taking place in the walls of the blood vessels. That's why we called it a vascular phase. Yes, after the injury, the vasoconstriction will be taking place so that the gap between the ruptured walls of the blood vessels can be decreased and loss of the blood can be decreased, prevented. These endothelium, which will be cut from the inner wall of the blood vessels, their collagen will be exposed, and then they will adhere the platelet over their surface, which are running along with the blood. That will help in maintaining this vascular or initiating this vascular phase. Once these platelets, after binding with the collagen over the exposed surface of the blood vessels, they release further serotonin, that is 5-HT, which will be acting as a vasoconstrictor, which will produce vasoconstriction in the blood vessels, through which further loss of the blood can be prevented. So this is the first phase in the hemostasis by vascular phase. Adhering of the platelets over the exposed collagen, which has been exposed due to the cutting, will be taking place, so the passage will be hindered. And second, these activated platelets then release serotonin 5-HT, which will act as a local vasoconstrictor over the blood vessels, which will induce vasoconstriction, and then this vasoconstriction will prevent further loss of the blood. Generally, this effect will be local. Wherever the blood vessels will cut ruptured, there only this vascular phase will be taking place. It will not generalize. That means it is not taking place in the rest of the body, rest of the part of the body. And generally, this response will stay till 30 minutes, and later the platelet phase will be starting. So after this phase, the second phase will start, is the platelet phase. In this platelet phase, the platelet adhesion will be taking place. Due to this platelet adhesion aggregation, a temporary plug will be formed. Generally, a factor called as von Willebrand factor is responsible for this formation of temporary plug between the platelets, and damaged blood vessels are generally releasing this factor. These platelets, they will not be able to have a very stable, permanent, strong plug, because the adhesion which has been taking place through the von Willebrand factor is not very strong enough to stay for a long time. So to give further strength to this temporary plug of platelets, thromboxane A2 as well as adenosine diphosphate will also be released. They will try to provide some more stability to this plug which has been formed between the platelets and the platelets. But still this plate could not be sufficiently strong enough to stay for a long period of time and prevent the loss of the blood from the ruptured blood vessels. Although from this platelet phase, serotonin will be released, which will produce vasoconstriction of the blood vessels, which we have seen in the previous slide during the vascular phase. But for sure, this platelet phase, which has been activated by the von Willebrand factor, as well as got further strength through the thromboxane A2 and the adenosine diphosphate, will prevent the further loss of the blood in a temporary way. It is going to be stable for a long period of time. It could not withstand for a long time. That's why later, through the process of coagulation, it will get further strength. So this is called as the second phase, which is the platelet phase. Here you can get this slide. So whenever the rupturing of the blood vessels will be taking place, here the platelets will come and adhere here, and then various prostaglandins and prostacyclins will be released, as well as ADP will be released. All of them, they are going to provide the further strength to this plug which has been formed between the platelets and the platelets. And then this adhesion of the platelet over the ruptured area of the blood vessels, because of the exposed collagen, will be taking place. Over few platelets, further platelets will come and start adhering, so that a kind of little bit stable plug which has been formed between the aggregation of the platelet and platelets will be taking place. These platelets will adhere with each other due to the von Willebrand factor, as well as thromboxane A2 and the adenosine diphosphate. And because of the ruptured blood vessel, as the collagen is exposed, the area of the collagen will be sticky in nature, so that will actually stick the the platelets over its surface. And over the second platelet, third will come, fourth will come, they will start sticking with each other and try to form a plug which is called as the platelet phase or platelet plug. But still this will not be very strong enough and need more strength in terms of fibers so that these fibers adhere them and make a strong plug. This will be taking place in the third phase, that is called as the coagulation phase, where the inactive plasminogen will be converted into plasmin, and then this plasmin as a fiber proteins, they will just match with this platelet plug and give it a strength so that it can act as a very strong uh, thrombus which will prevent the further loss until the natural heal will seal these ruptured blood vessels. So the third phase will be the coagulation phase. Now the platelets are temporarily working as a plug. They could not stay for long because their stickiness will not be very sufficiently enough to withstand pressure of the blood flow. So that's why the third phase of homeostasis will be starting, in which further strength to this plug will be given by the process of coagulation. In this process of coagulation, blood coagulation, as we know that the blood normally circulate as a fluid, as a liquid in our body, but if it is drawn, it is taken out of the body and kept for few minutes, it will become a gel, it will become a semi-solid. Why it is converting into a gel or a semi-solid, the reason goes to this phase, coagulation. Due to the blood coagulation, it will get converted into a gel or semi-solid. This process is called as clotting or coagulation. Another term is the clotting for this. Blood clotting is taking place. But if the clotting will take place abnormally, early in intact blood vessels, like during the flow inside the body, if the clotting or coagulation will start, that will lead to the thrombus formation. That will create many problems like atherosclerosis, thrombus formation, MI, or cerebral ischemia, etc. Now, why this liquid blood will be converted into a form a gel through the process of coagulation? Because there are various factors like factor 1 fibrin will be converted into the fibrin thread. Fibrinogen will be ultimately converted into fibrin, which is the ultimate product of the process of coagulation through a very long cascade where almost 13 factors will be involved. Factor 1, factor 2. Factor 1 is fibrinogen, factor 2 is prothrombin, factor 3 is tissue thromboplastin, factor 4 is calcium, factor 5 is procalcitonin, factor 7 is proconvertin, factor 8 is antihemopoietic factor A, factor 9 is Christmas factor, factor 10 is Stott factor or thrombokinase, factor 9 plasma thromboplastin, factor 12 Hagman factor, and factor 13 is the fibrin stabilizing factor or fibrinase. So through a long cascade of process in which various factors will be involved, many factors from inactive to they will become active. Ultimately, the process of coagulation will be taking place where both intrinsic and extrinsic factors will also be involved. But the net result, the liquid blood will be converted into a thick gel-like structure, and we call this process as coagulation or clotting. Now, these are the factors which I have told you. Factor 1, fibrin, prothrombin, thromboplastin, calcium, factor presence, then stable factor, anti-hemophilic Christmas factor, Stott factor, etc. These factors will be involved in the process of coagulation, and ultimately the process of homeostasis will be ending when this third phase of coagulation will be taking place. These are the sequence of clotting mechanism. Like enzyme cascade theory, most of the clotting factors which we have seen from 1 to 13, they are mostly protein and act as an enzyme. And generally many of them, they are present as an inactive enzyme until the process of coagulation will start. Then only they will be converted into active form, which will be the real enzyme, which will actually take active participation in the process of coagulation, which will convert fibrinogen into fibrin, where proenzymes will be converted into the real enzymes. In general, the blood clotting or the process of coagulation will take place in 3 stages. First stage is called as the formation of prothrombin activator. Second is called as the conversion of prothrombin into thrombin. In the first step, thrombin formed. In the second step, prothrombin will be converted into thrombin. In the third step, fibrinogen will be converted into fibrin. When these fibers will form, then they will make a mesh in which the platelets, cell debris, etc., they will be entrapped, and then a very stable clot formation will be taking place. You can see here the extrinsic and intrinsic factors which will be taking active participation in the process of coagulation. Extrinsic factors which will be take active participation immediately within second after the rupturing of the blood vessels, and generally it is named from a tissue called as tissue factor, which will be leaked from the blood outside the cell. That's why it is called as extrinsic factor. It will go out of the blood vessels, hence it is called as the extrinsic factor. After the trauma, it will be taking place. Where the intrinsic factor, after a damage inside the blood vessels, inside the endothelium and collagen exposure, they will be active, they will be releasing. Factor 12 will be converted into factor 12A. A stands for the active form. Then it will stimulate to convert inactive factor 11 to active factor 11. Then this active factor 11 will convert inactive factor 9 into the active factor 9. And then this active factor 9 will convert inactive factor 10 into active factor 10. Also the extrinsic factor, they will convert the factor 10 into the active factor 10. Both of them, they will be working on the prothrombin activator so that thrombin can be converted into the fibrin. And once these fibrins will be generated, they will initiate the process of coagulation, through which a stable clot formation along with the entrapment of the cell debris and platelets will be taking place. Almost the same thing. See here, this is the blood vessels which has been cut, ruptured. So the blood will go out, oozing of the blood will be taking place. Once it is taking place, the platelets adhesion will be taking place. First vasoconstriction, vascular phase, then platelet phase. The platelets will adhere, and due to streaky nature of the collagen, also the blood vessel, also the platelets, they will stuck to its wall. Then the third phase of coagulation will be taking place. and through the cascade of the coagulation process, ultimately a very strong, stable clot will be formed over the cut so that more blood loss can be prevented. This clot or this plug will remain stable until the natural healing of this cut or ruptured blood vessels will be taking place. Then it is getting dissolved by the process of fibrinolysis. So the next step when the healing has been taken place will be the fibrinolytic phase, where various enzymes will be released and they are going to dissolve this fibrin, which is actually giving the stability to this clot. During this fibrinolytic phase, the anti-clotting mechanism is activated with the help of various enzymes, and these enzymes then dissolve the plasmin and the fibrinogen and fibrin so that the clot will be dismantled. It can be disappeared, it can be broken down into the pieces. Because this thrombin, fibrin, they are giving the stability to the clot. Once they have been dissolved through the process of fibrinolysis, then whole clot will be disappearing. It is going to be washed away. So this is the next step in the process of hemostasis. Through these four steps, always the body will maintain the level of the blood as well as prevent its further loss which can be taking to any injury or internal or external bleeding. This is the fibrinolytic phase, same. Once the normal healing restoration has been taking place, then the fibrinolysis will be taking place. The clot, you can see here the clot is there. The clot dissolution will be taking place during the process of fibrinolysis. The thread-like structures which are actually made up of the fibrin, they will get dissolved. The various enzymes, multiplase, streptokinase, urokinase, etc. And then the entrapped cell platelets, they will be released and the clot will get dissolved. The process is called fibrinolysis. So this is the natural way in which the body will maintain the hemostasis. A very important thing, without which hemophilia will taking place. Even with the minor cut, the person will die due to the loss of the blood. So no doubt this process of hemostasis is a life-saving physiological process taking place in our body, which will keep the volume of blood in a normal range and prevents its unwanted loss. But why the problem come? Sometimes overactivity of this process of coagulation, platelet aggregation creates many problems like atherosclerosis, thrombus formation, various vascular disease, myocardial infarction, cerebral ischemia are some of the examples I have quoted here which could be arising due to this clot formation, which will be due to the activity of coagulation. So now we have to see the drugs which could be used against the various coagulation disorders, which we will see now. Now, if there is a excessive or uncontrolled overcoagulation is taking place, to manage these coagulation disorders, we have to use the anticoagulant drugs, which we will discuss now as a pharmacology. Now, according to the mechanism, the anticoagulant drugs are subclassified into three according to their functions, like antiplatelet, thrombolytics, and anticoagulants. Antiplatelet drugs prevent the platelet aggregation clopidogrel, aspirin, etc. Anticoagulant, heparin, warfarin, others. Then thrombolytics, the enzyme will dissolve the clot and act as a thrombolytic. Whereas according to the route of administration, the anticoagulants are subclassified as oral and parenteral. The prototype of the oral anticoagulant is the warfarin and its corners. Also, dabigatran, meligatran, apixaban are also oral anticoagulant. Whereas the parenteral anticoagulant, heparin, its corners, heparin, low molecular weight heparin, piperidine, as well as direct thrombin inhibitors like hydrodine, bivalirudine are acting as a parenteral anticoagulant. But both of them, they will be working as an anticoagulant. The difference is of their route of administration. Now here there is more classification of the drug has been given, like which drug is particularly working on which factor of coagulation. Like heparin and warfarin mainly act on the factor 2 prothrombin. But warfarin also act warfarin will also be acting on the factor 7 as well as the factor 9. Heparin also working on the factor 10. Whereas thrombolytic agents mostly working on the plasminogen, the last thing which is the main component of the coagulation. So this is how actually we can also understand how the drug which are working as anticoagulant, antiplatelet, they will be working on which factor of the coagulation process. Now let's begin. We'll first start with the parenteral anticoagulant. Heparin is the prototype drug which has been obtained from the animal sources, and it is working as a very effective anticoagulant, worked on the factor 3. Actually, heparin itself is present in our body, but as a drug we got it from the animal sources. And generally in the presence of heparin, which has been given as an exogenous drug by the parenteral route, the antithrombin activity will become very fast, almost 1000 times it will become more faster. Then we also use low molecular weight heparin. The parent drug heparin by itself has a heavy protein, would produce many allergic reactions. So we have developed low molecular weight heparin like enoxaparin, dalteparin, enzaparin, which could also be working similar to the heparin, but many complications which are taking place, the bulky size of the heparin will not be ensued, will not be taking place with the low molecular weight heparin component. These drugs are generally used to prevent the thrombus formation and emboli formation, and even they could be used prophylactically. And we are expecting that blood coagulation can be taking place like during surgery or the blood transfusion. We could use even these low molecular weight heparin compound prophylactically. Even they can be used in the patients who are suffering from the DIC, designated intravascular coagulation, where coagulation in the blood vessel itself is taking place. These low molecular weight heparin compounds are even effective to prevent this DIC, and generally they are preferred over their parent drug heparin as well as the oral anticoagulant drug like warfarin and its cogner. In case of thrombophlebitis, if thrombophlebitis is taking place, generally Low molecular weight heparin compounds are preferred. Now the adverse effect or toxicity from heparin, because it is an anticoagulant, so it prevents the coagulation. Very natural. When the coagulation will not take place, and if some blood vessels will rupture, internal or external bleeding is taking place, we could not able to control it. The loss of blood will be taking place. All anticoagulant, including heparin, could lead to severe bleeding if it is happening. We could not control it. Some patients also show as an adverse effect thrombocytopenia from the heparin. Then contraindications. For sure, if the patient is having any active bleeding or hemophilia, we cannot use anticoagulants, including heparin. Thrombocytopenia, if it is, we could not use the heparin. Intracranial hemorrhage, sure, we cannot use because further loss of the blood will be taking place. Ulcerative lesions of the GIT, patient is having gastric or duodenal ulcers, more bleeding can take place from these already found ulcers due to the anticoagulant we cannot use. Threatened abortion, if the female have the tendency of abortion, then in them also heparin should be considered to be contraindicated. Some recent surgeries, eye, brain, spinal cord, there are chances that by heparin, internal bleeding in these organs could be taking place. So again, in all these situations, also heparin will be contraindicated. So many things are there where we should not able to use the heparin as anticoagulant. But fortunately, we have an antidote for the heparin called as protamine sulfate. In case of bleeding which could be induced by the heparin, or if there is some contraindication taking place, then we can use as an antagonist, as a antidote protamine sulfate immediately. It is going to nullify the effect of the heparin and prevent the further bleeding. So this is called as this is all about the pharmacology of the heparin, which is the prototype drug from the parenteral anticoagulant medication. Okay, we'll stop by here today, and inshallah we'll continue this talk in the next lecture. You could ask me or you can post me through the post message. Thank you.